Welcome back to Nostalgia Academy, where we go over the stories of some of the greatest known and unknown music and bands of all time. Come to find out, a lot of you guys like the Screaming Blue Messiahs, which I never thought would be the case, but thanks for that one. This is one of my favorites that went from unknowns to semi-known, kind of legendary in the course of their career. We're talking about the dB's. We'll go over a little of their history, their record collection, and maybe a personal story or two of mine. So let's get started. The dB's were formed in 1978 in New York City. They consisted of Peter Holsapple on guitar and vocals, Chris Stamey on guitar and vocals, and Will Rigby on drums, Gene Holder on bass. Will Rigby also did vocals, and we'll talk about him later. They were originally from North Carolina, the three of them except for Peter Holsapple, who's from Connecticut. But if you look them up online, it's going to tell you they're all from North Carolina. They're not. They were part of the jangle pop scene, sorta. They were always mentioned in the same paragraphs as like REM and Let's Active and all them, but they really weren't in the same circles. Like I don't remember them ever playing anywhere near me back when they were just starting out. They were definitely part of the power pop scene, and apparently their first two records are supposed to be two power pop classics, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Now, in full disclosure, I liked the dB's after Chris Stamey left. He left after the first two albums. But I love Chris Stamey as a solo artist. I just didn't like the dB's as much with Chris Stamey in it. It's odd, I know, but we'll talk about that. So onto their record collection. Their first album was Stands for Decibels, which I think came out in 1981, released on Albion Records. The only song I know off of that is Black and White, and I've probably only recently heard that within the last few months. I just never owned it, never got into it. Same with Repercussion, the next album, also on Albion Records. Now, neither one of these sold a whole lot, Stands for Decibels or Repercussion, but they're considered pop classics, and I really need to dig into them. I know I've heard the song Ask for Jill. I know they also had the first version of the song Amplifier, which is kind of a favorite of most dB fans, and of course Neverland, which I have heard, and more on that when on the next record. The next record was like this. They had trimmed down to a trio at this point after Chris Stamey had left. They recorded that for Bearsville Records, which unfortunately went under right after they released it in 1984, so that didn't help out. But this is my first entry point into the dB's. I bought this cassette in Jacksonville, Florida. I think it was when I went to see the Screaming Blue Messiahs, in fact, at Einstein's. But if I had money in my pocket, I was buying an album if I was in a record store. And I knew I'd read about the dB's and Rolling Stone Records, Rolling Stone magazine, I should say. And yeah, I just saw it on the shelf and bought it, never having heard them. Loved most of it. The first two tracks, especially, Love Is for Lovers, is just hot gold. The follow-up, She Got Soul, is really, really good too. Lonely Is As Lonely Does, that's about as pretty a song as Holsapple's ever done. Amplifier is also on there. It's either a remixed version of the one from Repercussion or re-recorded, probably. It's a fan favorite, not one of my favorites, but it's one of their most well-known songs. Spy at the House of Love is a funky little number that a lot of people like. Rendezvous is also on there. It's one that I don't think anybody ever selects as a favorite of theirs, but it's definitely one of my favorite songs, not just from the dB's, but from that whole era. That's a really good track. And then White Train closes it out. It's kind of a little country sounding number, and it's fun. I know Will Rigby, it's not a duet, but they sing it together, him and Peter. It's really a cute little song. Now the next one, this is the one that they kind of don't ever talk about, but it is my favorite album of theirs, one of my favorite albums of all time. I'm talking about The Sound of Music. It came out in 1987. It peaked at 171 on the Billboard 200, which is a shame because it is so good. And it's also a shame because that's the highest charting album they ever had, 171. That's too bad. Going down this track list is like going over greatest hits for me anyways. And I listened to it recently and it still sounds as good today as it did back then. It doesn't suffer as much from being an 80s recording as some other albums do. This one starts off with a 1-2 punch of Never Say When, and then Change with the Changing Times. It's just two great songs to start an album with. Then goes into I Lie, and then Molly Says, two of the most beautiful songs that Peter Holsapple ever did. So that 1-2 right out the gate into two pretty ones, really cool. Bonneville is next. It's fun, but kind of forgettable. I'll tell you a story about that one later. Any Old Thing is next. It's probably their hardest rock song they've ever done, I think. And it sounds like it's going to fall apart at any second. It's just ramshackle and lets the rough side drag. It's really good. It's probably one of the better songs I saw them do live. Then his next is Think Too Hard, which is a great mid-tempo pop gem with really good lyrics. Working for Somebody Else is next. It's fun but forgettable. The band I used to be in used to actually cover that song, so I know how forgettable it can be because I would forget the words all the time. Next is Never Before and Never Again. That's one I'm surprised that no one else has ever covered, and if they did, I just don't know about it. It was a duet, basically, with Sid Straw, and it's got just enough country element to it to make it not too Nashville sounding. I mean, it didn't sound like Nashville back then, and it definitely doesn't now, which is a good thing, and don't get me started on country music now. Then the next song is A Better Place. I don't really remember that one. Looked at the Sun Too Long. Don't really remember that one. Today Could Be the Day is a hopeful sounding song, but ultimately forgettable. This album is about 3 songs too long, which of course leaves it at 9 songs, which I get. 9 really good, really great songs is better than adding filler songs just to make an album longer. I mean, I know why artists do it, but I just feel if you want more songs, just write better songs. That's just me. They were on IRS Records at the time. They put in some demos for their next album. IRS just discounted them out of hand, and they broke up after a show in Florida, apparently. In 1984, an album called Paris Avenue came out, and I remember buying that one at the Best Buy in Little Rock, Arkansas, when I was in the Air Force there. And I thought, wow, the dB's are back. This is going to be great. I brought it home, and it was absolute garbage. I mean, it was so disappointing. I think I listened to it twice just to give it a second chance. I think I couldn't have been that bad. It's not bad. But I'd learned later those were the demos that were never supposed to be released. They were just given to IRS to kind of give a game plan of what they were looking at doing. And I'm kind of glad they didn't do it because a lot of it was just no good. Now, they did get back together along with Chris Stamey. The original lineup got back together in 2012 for an album called Falling Off the Sky. The only one I really know off that record is That Time Is Gone, which sounds like it could have been on Sound of Music, which would have made Sound of Music better. But from what I understand, Falling Off the Sky sounds like the guys from the dB's, but doesn't sound a lot like the dB's, which I'm sure is pleasant enough. But so much time had passed, like 25 years or so, from the time they'd recorded with that lineup before. It's amazing that they sounded as close to the dB's as they did. That's a long time to go without, working together and coming back together and trying to sound the same. Now, since then, they put out a bunch of odd collections and outtakes and such. One called Ride the Wild Tom Tom. I think I had that. It's okay. One thing they did do in 2011, they put out a single called Picture Sleeve, which I discovered exactly a week ago, like last week, 2025. No joke. It is pure pop heaven. It sounds more like a Chris Stamey solo song than it does a dB's song, but I'm gonna let that slide because it's just so good that it's basically a perfect song. Now afterwards, Peter Holsapple went on to join the Continental Drifters supergroup with members of the Cowsills, the Bangles, and Dream Syndicate. He was also a full-time tour member with REM. I saw him with them on the Green Tour and on the Up Tour. I think he was still with them. I know he worked all the way up until the Out of Time album, but I'm pretty sure he was on the Up Tour as well. Anyways, he was also a full-time tour member with Hootie and the Blowfish. You can crap on Hootie and the Blowfish all you want. They're a fun bunch of guys. And I didn't realize this. He had been touring with them now for 26 years. So my wife said, why didn't I just make him a member? I'm like, right? Now, Chris Stamey, after the dB's, post-dB's, he put out 10 solo albums, 10. My favorite is It's All Right, because it's got Carol Lee and From the Word Go, which is fantastic. I also own Fireworks, which is really good. And I've heard songs from all of the other albums because most of it I catch on YouTube nowadays. If you ever look at the song 14 Shades of Green, that one is especially good. And if you're into nostalgia, it's just got nostalgic lyrics and stuff. He also worked with Yo La Tengo, who's a band I feel like I should know, but I kind of know nothing about. He's also been prolific as a producer, producing groups such as Pylon, Flat Duo Jets, and Whiskeytown, who had a young Ryan Adams, and I need to look back at the albums he produced by then because I love Ryan Adams. He also worked with the Golden Palominos and Alex Chilton and Freddie Johnston. And Freddie Johnston, I'll do a video on him shortly. He's kind of like a total solar eclipse. He comes around about every 10 years, and every 10 years it's really good, but then he goes away for 10 more years, so go figure. Now, Peter Holsapple and Chris Stamey did get back together a couple times to make three albums actually. One called Mavericks, which came out when I was stationed in Omaha, Nebraska at Offutt Air Force Base. And that album really kind of brought me out of a dark period at that time. Music will do that a lot of times to me, and then I'll remember exactly where I was when I got it. Mavericks, I got it on cassette because we didn't have a CD player at the time. It's got Angels, which is one of the most adorable songs ever written. It's got a typical Chris Stamey harmony with a typical songwriting of Peter Holsapple. So it's kind of the best of both songwriters in the one song. And it sounds nothing like a dB's song at all, but it's just so good. It's also got I Know You Will, which I think is the second song on there. It's gorgeous. It's lush. It's sweeping. If I remember right, every song on there is really good, really good. After that was Here and Now. I know I have to have heard something off of that because I'm so excited when these guys put something out, but I don't remember anything off of it, I'll be honest. Later on, they put, maybe a couple of years ago for Record Day, they put out one called Our Back Pages, which I need to dig into because from what I understand, it's basically a collection of reimagined and re-recorded dB songs. Two of the songs come from Sound of Music. I'll get to that in a second, but that makes me really happy because when they got back together and toured, I look at the set list on Setlist FM, and like every show, they played songs from every album except Sound of Music. Now, if I had gone to see them and they played nothing off the Sound of Music, I'd walk out the door. I would not be happy at all. I think they played Molly Says, like in Charlotte, one time, and that was it. So I'm glad to see that they put two of the songs on Our Back Pages. In fact, I think they opened the album with one of the songs from Sound of Music. Today Could Be the Day, I think. I might be wrong. Anyways, as far as personal notes, like I said, of their collection of 5 albums, I only know about 2 of them, and I love them so much. The other ones, I need to dig into the first 2. They're supposed to be power pop classics. The third one I need to check out. I mean, it's the band, but it really sounds like the band. So, but I love Chris Stamey's stuff. So, I mean, as a collection, and I love Chris Stamey and Peter Holsapple together. So all that together puts together a really good combination of music that I really, really like. And so I consider them one of my favorites, just in different combinations of artists and albums and releases. But personally, I only got to see them a couple times live. I got to see them in Charleston, South Carolina at Gilliard Auditorium. They opened up for Squeeze, who were on their Babylon and On tour. You got to understand Charleston crowds. It was an opening act. The crowd was quiet but polite. My friend Phyllis went with us, and she kept yelling for Bonneville, which I don't think they were prepared to play, but they played it anyways because no one else was requesting anything. And it was also my sister's first concert because I took her with us when she was like in 3rd grade. So technically, the dB's, being the opening band, are the first real band she ever saw live. And I asked her about that not too long ago, and she says she remembers it. So good on her. I then got to see them a couple more times. They opened up for REM in Atlanta at the fabulous Fox Theater, which is such a great venue. Much more enthusiastic crowd. I got to see them 2 nights in a row, play basically the same set each night. And they're good. They're good live. They're really good they're better on record, I think. They don't translate as well to a live band. Anyways, that's all I've got on the dB's. Make sure to like and subscribe. Here's the thing before I go. I don't do these videos often. I'm not trying to make a living doing this. It's just a labor of love for all these bands and artists that I love so much. So if you consider subscribing, that would really help out. Also, make sure to comment below. I mean, were you a dB's fan? Do you even remember them? What was your favorite dB's record? Have you ever seen them live? Like I said, they were fine. They didn't do anything to make me jump out of my seat, but they're good. They're good. They're always good. It's like Peter Holsapple said, somehow we've gone from the Great White Hope, also rans, to the Godfathers of Power Pop, all without selling a whole lot of records. And that's too bad, because they were so good. Anyways, you guys take care, and I'll see you on the next one.